Here's what's happening in the news, the monetary news that is. Out of Greece, the Greek bank deposits bleeding worsens in April. And so this article here is written as of Friday, May 29th, and it's talking about how badly the monetary crisis is escalating there because of debt. The government of Greece is over indebted, and all the creditors are basically trying to get whatever money they can out of the country, yet the country is broke. So this is another example of when you borrow more than you make, or you, for the most part, enslave your own citizens by allowing the banking sector to run up credit on the government. And so a couple of things I wanted to point out in this article here. I'll attach it below so you can check it out. But just a few things it was worth mentioning. It talks about deposits withdrawals from Greece lenders gathered pace in April as a standoff between the country's anti-austerity coalition and its creditors have renewed doubts that the country's future in the euro area. And so basically here, there's a big fuss on austerity aspect where the government is basically being instructed to cut back on the services and the promises that the government made to its citizens as far as the social programs and things like that, which pretty much leaves a lot of people who are dependent upon those promises, leave them high and dry, all in the efforts of being able to free up some extra cash to pay back their national debt. And so it talks about some figures here where it mentions how deposits by household and businesses fell to 133.7 billion euros in April from 138.6 billion euros in March. And so that's a 3.6% monthly drop. And it just talks about how people are getting hip to the idea that the euro and Greek nation are probably more likely going to split pretty soon. So they're pulling their money out of the bank. And so, bank deposits are just basically withdrawn, which ultimately hurts the banks because they're dependent upon having capital in their banking sector, or in their banking system rather. And it just talks about here private deposits fell to their lowest since 2004 amid concerns that the quarrel between government and its lenders will lead to a redenomination of savings to drachmas or a bail-in of deposits. And out of this whole article here, I think these two concepts here, the redenomination of savings to drachmas, which means that the Greek government more than likely will go back to their old currency of bringing the drachma back into circulation, which will automatically be depreciated in relation to the euros so that the government can begin paying back their debt, which means those that would have possession of drachmas will automatically see an increase in their cost of living in using that the drachma. And then the next thing is the bail-in of depositors. Not too many people in the Western world are familiar with bail-ins. We've heard the word bail-out, which happened here in the United States, 2009 area after the crisis, the Great Recession, where banks for the most part received cash based upon the credit of the United States government to fund the banking sector. And so technically the citizens have to pay that money in the future. That's what it boils down to. And so with bail-ins, the idea is that, okay, the banks have certain trillions worth of euros in the bank. And so in order to fund themselves and stay afloat, they might just freeze all accounts and say, hey, we need to borrow this money temporarily and we'll give it back to you in X amount of years, or we'll give you some rain checks or something like that to keep, to keep you happy. And so ultimately, the situation turns out to be a very dangerous position to be in if you're a citizen dependent upon the euro or the drachma, because anywhere it go in the days ahead, because of debt, the country's going to have to make some tough decisions which will affect the people directly in their wallets. And so this is just what's going on in the news monetarily around the world, and all eyes are on Greece because this could be the ripple in the water that just causes a downpour of other nations to run into the same events similar to this, because we're all under the same model monetarily as far as having central banking with central planning, which will ultimately enslaves nations with debt. So anyway, this is news for Friday. Hope all is well. Enjoy your weekend. Share this news if you find it informative. Thanks.